1,000 hills of blood. It began with a plane crash and ended with nearly a million people dead. But this isn't just a story of death. This is a story of how words became weapons, how neighbors became murderers, and how the world stood still, watching a country drown in blood. This is the story of the Rwandan Genocide. A small, breathtaking country in the heart of Africa, rolling green hills, peaceful villages, winding roads. They call it the land of 1,000 hills. But beneath those hills, beneath the calm, were cracks. Cracks that have been carved by colonial hands and filled with fear. For years, two ethnic groups had lived side by side, the Hutus and the Tutsis. At first, the difference meant little. They shared language, culture, land. But then, colonial rulers came and chose sides. They favored the Tutsis, gave them power, and labeled the Hutus as inferior. Over time, resentment grew, like a fire waiting for a spark. That spark came on April 6, 1994. A plane was shot down, carrying Rwanda's Hutus president. In moments, the country changed. Radio stations began blasting chilling messages. The graves are not yet full. Kill the cockroaches. Roadblocks appeared, machetes were sharpened, and the killings began. Not in the shadows, but in broad daylight. What followed was one of the fastest genocides in human history. Neighbors slaughtered neighbors, mothers were killed in front of their children, children were not spared, infants were not spared. Schools, churches, even hospitals became death traps. Very places where people sought refuge became their graves. Over the course of just 100 days, more than 800,000 people were butchered. That's 8,000 lives lost every single day. Not by bombs, not by armies, but by ordinary men wielding machetes, clubs, even farm tools. And where was the war? Peacekeepers were there, but they had no orders to stop the killing. Nations argued over the definition of the word genocide, while bodies floated down rivers. Rwanda screamed, and the world turned away. Never again, they had said after the Holocaust. But in Rwanda, again was happening in real time, and no one came. When the killings finally stopped, Rwanda was not a country, it was a graveyard. 1 million lives lost, 2 million displaced, countless others physically and emotionally shattered. But somehow, Rwanda chose to rise. It didn't forget, but it chose not to be defined by the darkest moment. Survivors stood face to face with killers in community trials. Some forgave, some couldn't. But the process of healing began. Not with perfection, but with painful honesty. Today, Rwanda is one of Africa's safest and fastest growing nations, clean, united, moving forward. Not because it erased its past, but because it faced it. The Rwandan genocide did not begin with guns. It began with words. Words that dehumanized, that divided, that made one group believe another didn't deserve to live. That's why the story matters. Because hate doesn't announce itself with bullets. It whispers on the radio, in conversations, in silence. And when we ignore it, when we pretend not to see it, genocide becomes possible. So, remember Rwanda. Remember the 1 million. Not just for the tragedy, but for the warning and for the strength of the people who choose to live after losing everything. Because silence is never neutral.